What's up, everybody? Good afternoon. It is 2:52, February 25th. This is Just Talking Sports, episode 11. My name is Marcus Modey. We are stationed at WAPX-FM Clarksville's 91.9, as you see right there. But also, you can check us out on YouTube at APSU-TV. My name is Marcus Modey. I got my partner to my left, Gabe Jones, Patton Cook to my right. We're going to start off with Austin Peay basketball because both teams, the women and the men, split their road games this past week, beating SIUE but losing to EIU, Eastern Illinois. And both of those games, we're going to talk more about Eastern Illinois because both of those games was close. Men's went into overtime. The girls lost by 1 point. And it was a very questionable ending for me personally on both sides, especially for that women's game. I'm going to let y'all take it away because I got a very interesting stat to bring up about that game.
Well, this is kind of a few times this season to where the women's team has had a chance to kind of pull away or to close out games, and specifically in that Belmont game at home, they had a chance to close it out. They had the lead, had a big Brianna Furby made shot, but just couldn't get that key stop, and that's been the big thing that I'm sure Gabe as well, calling a lot of the women's game. Execution down the stretch hasn't been kind of where you want it to be for a team who could possibly challenge for the OVC, but because the talent, I think, is there. The talent, no question, is one of the better teams the Governors have had really in my time here at Austin Peay, but the execution hasn't been where it's been in the past years. They haven't had those key players where they've needed a stop. Keisha Gregory was always that person who would kind of put it upon herself to get that key stop, that key rebound. Here, I think Ariel Gonzalez-Vaughner is that player. She just hasn't really lived up to that expectation in her final year here at Austin Peay, but still got a couple more games down the stretch to kind of prove that.
I agree. This team is a team that runs deep, and as I said last week, they just have, I guess, a pecking order issue. At times, it seems sometimes you need a go-to player, and recently in the last two games has been one of the Furby twins, more often Brandy Furby. In the first half of this game, it was Brianna Furby, and then Brandy kicked it up along. So this team just has issues guarding people in the half court. The half court defense is not great, as they are, I believe, dead last in opponent field goal percentage. So whenever you're having issues scoring the ball, of course, and whenever, the other team is scoring at will on the other side, it's not a recipe for goodness. It's not a recipe for winning.
Ariel Gonzalez-Vaughner, one thing she has struggled with throughout this season is foul trouble. It's a lot of times where the Governors need her down the stretch, and you can't put her out on the floor because she has 4 fouls. She has that fifth one, and she gets put out the game with 2 minutes left in the ball game. So when your leading scorer is out of the contest, you got to look, got to find for somebody else. And it's putting a lot of, sometimes in these few games against somebody like Belmont, it's a lot of pressure on the young ladies there trying to have these freshmen come in and be like, yo, we need a bucket. Can you give it to us? Can you give it to us?
Yeah, and a lot of the times, well, maybe not a lot, but there's been a few occasions where Gonzalez-Vaughner hasn't started the game. She's come off the bench. And to me, I think that is Coach Midlick trying to light a fire under her to kind of get her spirits back up, to kind of challenge her to be better. And a lot of times I think she's done that, but just kind of had those ticky-tack fouls to where she's trying to force something, whether she's made a mistake on the other end, is trying to make up for it, but just hasn't been able to do that. But a player that maybe this season hasn't gone her way in the entirety is Brandy Furby, but right now in conference play, I think she's playing as good as anyone on this Governors team, and you'd have to think, where would this team be without her? Because right now the Governors are in 7th, got 2 more games to play, but you're going to have to execute. But she's been the real bright spot of this season, that she's kind of come out of the darkness, shall we say, because just confidence levels for her wasn't the greatest in non-conference play.
In this EIU game, Austin Peay forced the Panthers to 30 turnovers. And if you was coming into this game and you would have told me that Austin Peay was going to force EIU to 30 turnovers, I'm thinking in my head, oh, Austin Peay's going to win by 10. Austin Peay's going to win by 12.
Mm-hmm.
But, and Patton might have a little rant later on in the show about it, but in that game there against EIU, the refs controlled that game the whole time. There's no doubt in my mind that the refs controlled that game. 50 fouls in 4 quarters. Both teams combined for 48 free throws.
At least they were calling on both sides.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was 25 apiece.
It was correct.
Nuts.
But for a team like Austin Peay that just naturally will struggle in the half court when you've got the shooters outside, you'd like to get them out in space. It really hinders them because if you're out in the open transition and you just get a ticky-tack foul that doesn't need to be there, it just kind of halts the flow of a game that naturally fans and neutral fans want to see. The last thing I want to see is to have a free throw shooting contest, and we're starting to see more and more in today's game just with the more softer fouls being given.
I agree, and as well as it takes the fire out of the players at times. Austin Peay loves to come out. Well, usually they don't start the game in a full court press, but usually they love to surprise teams with it, if you can call it a surprise. But you can't do that. You can't jump at those passes. You can't go for those steals if the refs are blowing it every time there's any type of contact.
With the slightest contact, it seemed like in that game, a little bump. Sometimes if you are a referee, sometimes you got to just swallow the whistle. Just plain and simple. You can't
just
call
for the sake of the flow of the game.
Because a lot of, as you just stated, that's a great point, Patton, saying that you get out of the rhythm. If you're a shooter, like a lot of the governors are, when you want to get 3 shots in a row, you want to get some shots up quickly and early on so you can get into the flow of the game. But each and every time you come down the floor, you hear that whistle. You go on defense, you hear the whistle. You come back on offense again, you hear the whistle.
It's not fun.
It's not fun, and it just slowly deteriorates yourself and your mindset sometimes because you're on a stop thinking about, okay, we're about to run this play, we're about to do this, instead of just letting the game come to you, knowing where your shots is going to come from and when. Refs sometimes coaches will tell you the refs can dictate a game as well. So in this instance for the governors, you had to fight. You was on the road, so you had to fight the opponents. That was EIU. You had to fight the refs, and also you had the fans as well.
Yeah.
For Eastern Illinois cheering on their team. So you had to fight 3 battles in one game, and you just barely, so close, squeaked out a victory. But that last call they gave, I believe it was to Abby Wall, that wasn't a foul. It wasn't a foul off that offensive rebound.
No, and it wasn't. And another thing I'd like to get your guys' perspective on is the amount of threes Austin Peay throws up there. In this game alone, they shot 37 of them, and they only made 11, although 11 is a great number. But to me, at some point, you're better off maybe passing up some of these three-pointers because you're going empty-handed on so many possessions to where you're trying to have to make up for it on the defensive end, kind of where you struggle already. So I don't know what you guys think, but I would maybe switch up the play because the three-pointers, although they have been going in, you're shooting them at a extremely high rate in terms of numbers. What do you guys think?
Well, my question is, where else would you get your offense? We have seen the team struggle making some layups. They've struggled to score in the paint. We've definitely seen the team struggle to score outside the paint as far as like mid-range jumpers, though I have seen pretty much every player being able to hit like a 15-foot elbow jumper if they could get some more offense around that area. But otherwise, where else will you get your offense?
The art of the mid-range is
dying.
Yeah. And it's not dying at a slow rate. It's dying at a very quick rate.
Yeah. Because
it just like in today's game in the NBA, even for guys, a lot of threes are going to be jacked up. It's either going to be threes or layups or dunks. Mm-hmm. And for the ladies, it's going to be either a layup, a post-up, or a three-point shot because the spacing sometimes, if they shrink the floor, you can't really attack the basket like you want to, so you might have to settle for those threes.
And another thing, kind of looking at some of these games, I think the reason they're having to shoot so many is basically the defense is in a zone the entire game, and they don't really let Austin Peay get in the middle of the zone and get down low, so they're kind of being forced to throw up these three-pointers. But if they're going to really want to make some noise in the OVC tournament, they're going to have to find a way to get teams out of the zone, because right now it's been a real struggle for most of the OVC play.
And for the go ahead.
No, I was gonna say the best way to get a team out of the zone is to shoot them out of the zone. If you're not making your shots, then good luck.
Yeah.
You live or die by the three. That's what the Governors have been. That's been the motto for their season. It's been a hit or miss. But moving on to the guys' side, they lost in overtime. 83-80 was the score against a really good EIU team. Jordan Adams had 31 points. Looks like he's gonna be freshman of the year. Terry had another double-double. Terry Taylor did 26 points and 16 boards. EIU is a team you have to watch out for, just plain and simple. They're sitting at their 4th spot. But if I'm any team in the OVC, I don't want to play them, just plain and simple.
No, and they got a couple guys that Austin Peay would love to have, specifically their point guard. He can get in the lane almost any times he wants, but in this game, you kind of had Jordan Adams and Terry Taylor at their very best, and they still lost, which was something I don't think anyone kind of expected to see. A lot of the times in their losses, one or two of them, or if not both of them, have kind of struggled. But in this game, you can't really look at either Terry or Jordan. But the one thing you can talk about is Jordan had a lot of good looks at the end of that game to get into the lead, but just couldn't do it. And Terry even had one kind of rattle in and out. Maybe forced it up a little. I think he thought he had less time than he actually did, but kind of a crazy thing to think that those two guys went up for 50 points and it still didn't matter at the end of the day.
Interesting enough to me, as the game went into overtime, Jordan didn't put up a shot. Well, he got to the line, but he didn't have any field goals. Why is that? Why would Coach figure not, find the hot hand instead of giving shots to Butler and
Adams was really aggressive, and he wasn't settling.
Yeah.
One thing I noticed in that overtime, he was trying to get to the basket. He was trying to get to the basket. That's one thing I like about it, but also that we just stated, the mid-range shot somewhat is a lost art. Sometimes whenever you see Jordan Adams pulling up for a mid-range, it's a step back. It's not a stop and pop. But a lot of times in that overtime specifically, he was trying to get to the cup, so a lot of people, what was they doing? Reaching, smacking down. Those fouls was happening. It was a lot of good looks in that overtime. Seemed like the basketball guys was in Austin Peay favor just then in that overtime, and EIU squeaked out another victory.
And a lot of those shots were just going in and out, and in another day, those are going in, and you just kind of have to live with that outcome, because at the end of the day, those shots will end up falling. But another worry is kind of that third player that all season we've kind of been talking about. Who would that end up being? Evan Henson was the next highest scorer with 7. Watching the game, I don't think Terry or Jordan necessarily were quote-unquote ball hogging. They were just taking the shots given. I think they did what they could to try and get the other guys involved. The shots weren't going down, so that's another thing we'll have to see. Abayev ended up fouling out, so he's going to have to kind of work on that and kind of see if he can stay in the game longer, because rebounding, he offers a real threat.
And also, he's a really good threat on the offensive end as well, because a lot of times, I know I've talked about it on the ESPN Plus broadcast for the men's games, it's a lot of attention on Jordan and Terry, and Abayev sometimes be sitting there all alone right underneath the basket, or he has the post-up game as well, because a lot of attention is not looking towards him. He just has to be aggressive early on, but also once he get in that rhythm and being aggressive, he got to make the easy ones. That's sometimes what happens even on the women's side for Austin Peay. It'd be a lot of easy ones that just miss point blank that they have to capitalize on if they want to win, because EIU, they was down 13 in the second half, came back and won. Against Murray, they was down 26 in the second half. So EIU is a second-half team. You can't just take your foot off the gas pedal if you are going against this Panthers team. Josiah Wallace, who is now the current player of the week, had 22 against Austin Peay. They can hit clutch jumpers. I think he was talking about Max Smith, the point guard for Eastern Illinois. They got some shooters, and they got guys that's going to create. EIU is a really good team, and for Austin Peay, this game on Saturday just means everything now, because they play here at home against Morehead State on Thursday. Saturday, you got to go on the road. You're going against Murray. And for basically, this is for the OVC regular season title and for a first or second seed.
Yeah, and two things for first in that Eastern Illinois game. I thought a lot of times this season, whenever Austin Peay has kept it close in that second half, they've kind of pulled away in the last 2 to 3 minutes. But give credit to EIU because they went blow for blow with Austin Peay. Every time Terry or Jordan hit a big shot, they came right back down the floor and attacked and got the points to go. But really, I think Austin Peay, they had a chance to really put some cushion between Murray State and also Belmont that now is kind of tied back up with them. But now they've got to do the hard work. They're going to have to go on the road and get it done.
It's a three-way tie now for first place. You got to win against EIU just Saturday. You got that one-game cushion, so where even if you lost against Murray, you still
tied with
you're
them.
still tied, still had a piece of the share. But now this is all the marbles now, and then you're going against your biggest rival, barely squeaked out a victory here at home. It's not going to be easy at Murray at all.
Nope.
And now also, because Belmont is another team, they already beat their best play. They already beat both teams.
Mhm.
Belmont has beat Murray and Austin Peay, so they split those games. So now they don't have to worry about saying if we just win out, we automatically get the top 2 seed.
And that's a team that where they started slow, they've kind of finished off as hot as anyone in the conference, and that's exactly what Casey Alexander would want out of his team. He's seeing where their flaws are, but he's starting to see where this team is going to be trouble for any team if they can make it into the big dance. No one wants to play at Belmont.
And whenever you have a guard like Murphy, that dude is amazing. Yep. He's a fantastic player. He can do it all, and he's a great rebounder at guard.
One of the best rebounders. He is actually the leading rebounder in the NCAA.
For guards.
Mm-hmm. For guards. It's 8.
Yeah, it's like 8 rebounds a game.
Because I know when he had it here, it was like almost 9 rebounds.
Mm-hmm.
So he's still right there. Belmont is a team you got to watch out for. EIU is another team you got to watch out for. So this year, it might, like last year, a lot of people said it was pretty deep. This year, the top 4 teams it's literally been a game difference for the top 4 teams. So the top 4 teams most likely will see each other in the semifinals. Well, the quarterfinals, excuse me. And it's up for grabs when you get into Evansville.
And you'll want to watch pretty much every day of the OVC tournament because a lot of times, at least for me, I kind of tuned in towards the end of it where you had Austin Peay and Murray squaring off. But you're going to want to watch the whole thing because teams in this conference, it's pretty close together. So you're going to see some, even though they're lower seeds, you can easily see an upset because it's just been so close all season.
But Austin Peay, they control their destiny. So that's you win out, you get a piece of the share. If you're for the women's side, you win out, you stay in the top 8. You're going on to Evansville. If you lose these last 2 games, it can get very questionable. If you're Austin Peay, for the men's side, if you lose the last game against Murray, you're still going to get in. You only get a single bye week, not a double bye week. But you want all the marbles are there for Austin Peay. You just got to win out, just plain and simple.
And if you would have told Matt Figger that at the beginning of the season, you've got a chance to lock up the OVC if you win at Murray, I think he'd take your hand off for that because all you want is a shot at the end of the day, and Austin Peay has that shot along with 2 other schools as well.
So let's go ahead and move on. We're going to go to the NBA. I'm going to let Patton take it away because this is his team we're about to talk about because it's a lot of turmoil with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Go ahead and take it away, Patton.
Yeah, so we'll start off with some hardship because naturally as a Cavs fan, that's what it is these days.
It's always been like that since
the good years are gone, I'm afraid. I don't see LeBron walking through that door unless Bronny, shout out to Bronny, he can come over to Cleveland, but the hardship is now, and unfortunately, another coaching change, another kind of disaster that I've watched unfold, and this time is with John Beilein. And at this hire at the beginning of the season, I liked it because just on paper you're looking at, this is a guy who's kind of grown talent at Michigan, not the highest rated, and he kind of developed guys, and that's exactly what the Cavs want right now. They want Colin Sexton, they want Darius Garland, they want Kevin Porter Jr. to kind of be elevated to their highest potential, and to an extent, I guess you could say that because Colin Sexton this season has been a lot better than what he was last season, and just in terms of playmaking has done better on the assist end. But It all started with the thug comment, the infamous thug comment that when it broke, I was just in awe of what in the world is going on for the Cleveland Cavaliers.
I was laughing the whole time because I knew he messed up big time.
And
that was a big time mistake.
And two things on that. If you kind of watch the Cavs, as I do pretty much every single game,
Unfortunately.
Well, I watched him beat the Miami Heat last night. Darius Garland, shout out to him. Great game. But if you watch them early in the season, you could kind of see where he was coming from with the slugs. He thought he was trying to say slugs, or so he says. At least that made sense to me because defensively, it's just a slow-moving process. They're not thinking very well out there, communicating between each other. They're playing like slugs. So let me get that out of the way. I don't need a John Beilein situation here, but that, and also John Beilein just naturally, he's an older guy, so he's going to naturally slur his words. If you watch his press conferences, he slurs words all the time. Just unfortunately for him, the players, I don't think that ever really got beyond them. Although they said the right things in press conferences, they put it behind them, but in the report we come out from the Athletic, Marcus, it was far from that.
They start every song they were saying coming in practice blasting songs that had thugs in it,
and
it didn't matter.
And
it was a lot thugs and Mansion. Was it Bones and Harmony? They was playing
Bone Thugs and Harmony. He was playing Bone Thugs. As a matter of fact, I think Bone Thugs is from there.
Yeah, and my only thing with that, I would like to know their intentions on that. If they're trying to have a laugh with Coach Beilein and kind of laugh and laugh, I'm okay. But I think it might have been personally. But if it's just a negative kind of type thing, I'm not big into that, especially with how the players have played this season. They're in no way to kind of fault from blame every single one of them. And then the kind of final part is, I think they're saying it is as a resignation, and I somewhat agree with that because I don't think they would have fired him through the All-Star break. What's the point?
No.
Because you're doing that, you're giving John Beilein a ton of money, but right now, from what it looks like, John Beilein is the one who kind of made this decision that at the end of the day, John Beilein hasn't lost a lot of games in his coaching career. I think he probably has lost more this season than he has in the past 4 seasons combined for Michigan. So it's been a tough process, and for a guy at that age, you got to worry about his health, and he said as much. This is kind of starting to affect his life personally and emotionally as well.
I think for Beilein, it wasn't worth it.
No.
It wasn't worth it. I know Andre Drummond said he had a better situation in Detroit than it was in Cleveland, and the difference with that is like maybe 4 wins. That's a difference from Detroit to Cleveland. It wasn't a good sign at all. It was a lot of stuff that shouldn't really happen. But also, I got a question. Was it 4 years? He was on contract for
5.
5?
5 years was the plan. So I've seen a lot of things discussing whether this was the right hire. To me, I thought it was just fine because of what the direction the Cavs were going in. It was never going to be a quick fix. It was going to be a process, but unfortunately that process hit a screeching halt, unfortunately. But Cavs won last night, so we can talk about that later on down the road. Because I will have to shout out Cavs wins because there's only going to be a handful of them left in the season.
Miami was really tripping on losing against the Cavs.
I mean, when you've got
also, I want to bring up something because my good friend here, he's been talking to me and Gabe in this group chat about Tristan Thompson.
They laughed at me.
And
Chloe baby daddy.
I mean, yes,
he sure is. Credit to Tristan Thompson for that.
But he's been hyping up Tristan Thompson these past few games. I'm going to hype up somebody else on that. Larry Nance at the small forward. They need to go ahead and that's been the best lineup for it. Larry Nance, Drummond, and Tristan Thompson. That should be their best lineup.
I think it's something you won't see. That's probably going to be the biggest lineup in the NBA. Larry Nance at the 3, who is naturally going to be a power forward, and then Tristan Thompson and Andre Drummond are basically centers. And one thing Tristan gives is defensively, he can. I'm sure I've watched a clip him guarding Steph Curry, just locking him down I've watched it into eternity.
Oh my
he can stay with point guards, which not a lot of power forwards can do.
Wait, I have to bring this up as well because he has said it on the ESPN broadcast that Matthew Dellavedova
He sure
locked
did,
up
yes.
Steph Curry
Yep.
on an ESPN broadcast when Steph Curry averaged 26 on, 45% shooting.
Yeah, but that was after Matthew Dellavedova had to go to the hospital. He gave his he gave his life. He gave his life for the Cavs. He had to get
Yeah,
an
but
IV.
it's Joe right behind us saying, yeah, but it was still 26 on 45% shooting.
No, you just
it was
got,
one bad game.
you got to look at game 1, 2, and 3. I thought he did as good as anyone has ever done against Steph Curry, and unless Steph is just missing open shots, you guys can look at the highlights. I know what I'm saying. Just got a lot of haters here.
Hey.
You know what? Let's just go ahead and go past. What you got to say?
And before we do go past, I'm on Patton's side.
Thank you,
First
thank
3
you.
games, clampers. Clampers.
Oh my goodness. Let's just move on and just go to the NFL because the draft combine is starting up this week.
Yep.
And I know he's still somewhat happy over here, Patton, because he got a few guys from his team that's in the draft combine. On Thursday, it starts off with the quarterbacks, receivers, and tight ends. So, Patton, I was going to ask you, who are the guys you're looking out for on this Thursday as they're going through their events?
Yeah, I'll give you one from the quarterback, running back, wide receiver, and tight end because those are really the main guys you're looking at. Defensive end, it's kind of the only guy you're looking at is really Chase Young, and then the
Moss.
safety for LSU as well. So for quarterback, I'm looking at what the Oklahoma quarterback can do. I'd like to see how he performs in the throwing.
Jalen Hurts, yeah. I don't. That's one because I'm a Sooner fan. I'm a diehard Sooner fan, and Jalen Hurts. Hopefully, he does really well because this combine could really expose him, and it could really hurt him. Because right now, I think they might have him as a third round pick.
And I think it could also help him just because I think he'll knock it out of the park in those interviews. The whole Alabama situation.
That's the thing. The interviews. Oh, he's gonna knock that out. That's light work. See, we ain't talking about the interviews.
Right.
We're talking about what you're gonna do on the field. That's what the scouts gonna be looking at.
And I'm also interested to see kind of what he does. Will he run the 40? A lot of these quarterbacks don't run the 40 anymore. You didn't see Lamar Jackson run it. I'd be interested to see if he ends up running it. So that's going to be my quarterback, and then. My running back I'm looking forward to is going to be Keyshawn Vaughn for Vanderbilt, a guy who I think he had one of the better seasons in the SEC, not last year because just what a sham that offense ended up being, but 2 years ago in that bowl game specifically against Baylor, but of course Baylor had a great season this year, had one of the better games in the bowl game, had over 200 yards rushing, and just it's kind of video game type stats for Keyshawn. So a big thing for him is kind of where his 40 is going to be at, and also kind of proving to the scouts that last year wasn't what they can look forward to in the NFL. Just kind of a guy who's not going to be able to break out in the open field. So I think this combine, specifically the 40, a lot of the times with these backs is going to be big. Wide receiver wise, I'm looking at Justin Jefferson for LSU because I think Judy and Lamb are going to be the two guys, and then that third receiver is really up for grabs between Higgins and also Ruggs as well. So Justin Jefferson for LSU is a guy I'm looking at.
Hold on now. You're forgetting about one-man guy. I'm going to have to step in because we going to talk about it. That's CeeDee Lamb.
I said Lamb. I said Judy and Lamb are the two top two in the wide receivers, and then that third for me is really up for grabs.
I think Justin Jefferson might be number 3. For my quarterback, it's going to be Justin Herbert because he seemed like a NFL prospect that could be he could be the potential. I'll say the potential could be like a Andrew Luck style quarterback, but he's really 6'6". The frame that he has could be it could work out for him.
The measurables, they're going to love him, and those hand measuring contests. That they absolutely love Justin Herbert. He's got over 10-inch hands, so they absolutely love him in that department. I don't know why we measure those stats, but just in terms of measurables, I think Justin Herbert just running as well. It's an athletic kid who can do a lot of things.
For my running back, because of DeAndre Swift from Georgia, he's going to be the number 1.
Yep.
Then you got Jonathan Taylor from Wisconsin, who's going to be really number 2 running back. I got Zach Moss from Utah. Because Utah was a team that was really running the football exceptionally well throughout the season until they faced Oregon in the Pac-12 championship. And Moss was a really good reason on why he was dominating. That's somebody I want to see in the NFL with an NFL team that could be a potential sleeper, because not a lot of people, he might be second rounder, because it's a really top heavy draft. This first round is going to be a lot of quarterbacks, receivers, and really defensive players, secondary. So you can see him sneaking off into the second round.
And there's a few guys for Utah that's going to be kind of a bit of a hidden gem, naturally, because a lot of America doesn't watch Utah just in terms of lateness. Their games start at 9, 10 o'clock.
Nobody's really trying to watch Pac-12 games.
Right.
And then for my tight end, I mean, just might be just off of hype a little bit, but I'm going to go with Thaddeus Moss from LSU, who is the son of Randy Moss. He has the frame.
Got the genetics, that's for sure.
He has the frame. He's a receiving tight end at that. I saw a comparison of him being a bigger Jordan Reed. I kind of like that comparison a little bit, but I think he can be a dominant tight end, because he also, it's not just where some tight ends in the class, a lot of NFL combines, you'll look and be like, oh yeah, he's definitely a running tight end. Oh yeah, he's definitely a receiving tight end. You got a combination of both, can go hand in hand, just like George Kittle from the 49ers, who can really block really well, but also can receive exceptionally well, run after the catch. That's a plus from the tight end spot. And then, like I said, my receiver, I got to be a little bit biased and go with CeeDee Lamb, because that man is just dominating the route running for CeeDee Lamb. Corners, get ready.
Him and Jerry Jeudy, I think those two guys right there, if you're in need of a receiver, you can still wait to take one at the end of the first and second, and you're going to get one heck of a guy who can go in day one. And a lot of these guys are from programs. It's in pro-style offenses. They're not in these kind of wide-open throws to where they're just making a catch and running 80 yards. There's guys in front that they got to do, and I've really been impressed with the wide receiver group in this combine, and I'm going to take a special look on that in terms of the numbers these next couple days.
Patriots front office, Bill Belichick, Robert Kraft.
You know a lot about that.
I know you guys are listening. Get on it. Give my boy some weapons. Bring my boy back. Give my boy some weapons.
He's talking about his boys and Tom Brady. He's going to need some receivers.
We definitely will.
But they might not be having a first round if the NFL did their little punishments on the little tapes.
Don't worry, we'll figure it out. We always find a way. And
TB12 might be here by the time we do our next podcast. Who knows?
TB12.
We shall see. I'm excited. I saw a report that said he would be, or his first option, if his first option right now is the Titans, which I don't know how credible that source is, but if no Patriots, I'm cool with the Titans. I'll go see him. I'm not buying the jersey, but I got a couple Patriots jerseys.
I think it makes a whole lot of sense just in terms of the system. He'll have a lot of control on that offense, and he knows a lot of people in the organization. You got Dion Lewis, got Mike Vrabel there.
Yeah, they take all our players.
You got Malcolm Butler there. Malcolm Butler is one of the better friends of Tom Brady. I know Joe hates it. I love it.
No.
He's going to win us the Super Bowl.
No, because that offensive line. That
is what I'm worried about.
He's going to hate that offensive line.
I don't think he will.
How?
Towards the end of that.
So wait. This is going to be my question. So that offensive line is just going to change from this past season to this season with a new quarterback. Is that what you're telling me? They're going to just have all their faith?
I would ask, how did Derrick Henry get all those yards?
That's because they're a running offensive line. They're not a passing offensive line.
I know. Keep your defense honest. That's one thing that if you have a guy like Tom Brady, they're not going to be able to just stack the box all the time, and that gives Derrick Henry easier running rooms. We're not going to ask Tom Brady to throw it 30, 40 times a game like my friend over here, Gabriel Jones. They're going to have to throw the ball with the Patriots. I think it makes a lot of sense for Tom to come down here. No state income tax. He knows a lot of people in the organization, and I think the Titans offer him the best chance for a ring because I see the Patriots window closing.
Our window's never closing. I will resent that comment, but
the Bills are going to win the division. Give
out
it
of
2
your
years.
mind once again. But yes, if Tom Brady chooses to leave our beloved organization,
don't tell me I'm out of my mind. It was only a 1 game away from winning the division last season.
We'll see. Once again, we still top dogs. We run this.
But we're going to send it to a quick break because we got a special guest that's going to hop on the show and give his energy and his flairness on the show. So we're going to send it to a quick break. We'll be right back with more Just Talking Sports. Welcome back, guys. This is Just Talking Sports, episode 11. As we got our special guest, who is always behind the scenes, but we got a special chance here to bring him on the mic.
Yep.
That is Joe Palmer, our producer and technical director. He is right here on the mic. Joe, how are you feeling today? I know that energy. You waiting to talk about this.
Man, I can't wait. Let's get into it.
All right, so because first off, we're going to stay with the NFL and talk about this new deal they're trying to bring up, because the NFL wants to add an extra playoff game and also add a 17th game in the regular season. And also it's going to be like a little increase for the players' wages. It's going to increase just about a point, 1.2, I believe.
A percent.
It's like 47% to 48%. And I want to get you guys' take on it, because it's really been wishy-washy for me on really whose side I really want to be on.
Well, first of all, I'm not going to be on the side of the NFL, because my problem with the NFL on this is if they make the decision to add extra games at whatever point that they're going to give as a bonus to the players can't say, well, we don't accept that. That's it. So we're going to strike. And if they end up striking, the NFL could just call it off and say, well, guess what? We're not losing money anyway. We're still going to make money for those the license fees and the sponsorships and whatnot. They're still going to make all that money, so they're not losing anything. So my biggest issue for that is that, say you got guys that aren't the first or second choice to be on the field. If you got guys with third string or somebody who's fresh out of recruitment, straight from the pack, to where they've never, I don't know about y'all, but I've never made a six-figure anything. Yeah. So if I get my sudden package.
We are broke college students as of right now.
Exactly. Me too, as a grad student. Best believe. So I've never made any kind of six-figure nothing, except maybe if I play Monopoly and y'all lose. So, I mean, my point is that if you go from a college student who's an athlete and they work, I mean, we work in the business of supporting them in what we do. So my whole point is that if you go from a college student to a draft pick to whatever, and you start making a six-figure salary, even if it's on a low point, and you end up having to lose out because your organization strikes, that's it, you out. Because there's one of the guys, I don't remember what his name was. I think he's probably for the Bengals, but he said, look, and again, I don't know exactly which team he plays for, but he said, look, all I do is I play. I'm here to play, and that's what I will be. So that means he will cross the line if it comes down to it, but he has to. So I'm saying, as far as like from my standpoint, for me being a fan of pretty much a lot of different sports, but one of the big things, the reasons why I think that they definitely need to be careful on where they go with this, is that I was a huge baseball fan all the way up until the strike in '94. And once that happened, I sold all my memorabilia, and I will not even watch anything at all that had to relate to baseball. And I'm talking about, I used to love baseball as a little kid, okay? And then when I got to that point to where they struck, and I lost it, I was like, I'm never going to watch baseball again. So my point to this is also they have to watch their viewership challenges to where they might start seeing a huge drop-off, decrease of their viewership, their fan base, if they do this. Because, again, it's all about that bottom line. Because again, the biggest thing about the NFL is that they are a corporation and they're about making that money, and it could be at the expense of the players. Which, again, for me, I want to make sure that the players are thought of first, and for fans, and then players.
Yeah, and I kind of fall somewhere in the middle of it. As a fan, naturally, you're going to love more games. Just as me personally, I can't get enough. But one thing the NFL does have to be careful of is kind of seeing with the NBA and in the MLB, as Joe was saying, there's so many games to where it kind of doesn't give the reason, why should I tune into this game when I could just tune into next week's game, because this game doesn't mean a whole lot. But I think the NFL, I don't know if they'll necessarily have that problem, because 16 to 17, each game is going to mean so much as it is already. So I think I kind of fall somewhere in the middle in terms of the 17-game season. In terms of the playoff, I'm totally against it, because you're going to have teams with the Steelers and Mason Rudolph facing off against a number 2 seed like the Chiefs, and that's just going to be a blowout. Why do I need to see that? And why would a Steelers fan want to be in the big dance only to get kind of embarrassed on national TV?
And I'm a Steelers fan. I'm absolutely against that too. So
Yeah.
I didn't understand the playoff thing at all, because even so, if you are the number 1 seed, okay, you get the only team that has a bye and whatnot. Everything goes to you. A lot of the number 1 seeds have been into the NFC Championship or the AFC Championship
So the
game.
numbers are skewed already.
So like they already have the advantage.
Yeah.
If you're going to put the number 2 seed and saying that it's not going to be number 1 versus number 2, yes, there's going to be times where there will be a Cinderella moment and the 7 seed be the 2 seed. But how often is that going to happen?
Right, like what the Titans did this season is an
That's not-
anomaly of what is going to happen normally. A 9-7 team is very rarely going to beat a Patriots team who's over 10 wins, and then a Ravens team, I think they won 13,
Yeah.
12 or 13 games. That is rarely going to happen. And I kind of looked at a stat, what teams would have made the playoffs. And it's just teams you don't want to watch,
Like
unless
the Titans.
Right, well,
Or the Patriots.
it's just teams that aren't going to really make it close at all. So I think in terms of the playoff, I have a big problem with it. But in terms of the CBA, as long as they give players an incentive or a reason to want to play an extra game, whether that's medical marijuana use being lifted, whether that's more pay or life insurance forever, because that's something the MLB does. I think is
Or
something.
it could be something where they could be like, all right, well, if you're going to give us an opportunity to play more games, how about we have something that's donated to a charity of our choice?
I'm not sure a lot of them are going to care about
Well,
that.
I mean, I'm
but
just saying, give us, like you're saying, the
yeah,
different option.
What he's trying to say is like how the NBA did it for the All-Star game, where they saw that, okay,
Yeah.
we're going to do this stuff for Kobe, but also we're going to donate this to these charities, for the local charities at that. So where it'll be a thing where it's going to give a positive outlook for the NFL and the corporation of the NFL if they're going to do that.
Yeah.
The
And
NFL,
it's a way to incentivize the whole reason for, okay,
Yeah.
we are the company saying that this is what we're going to do, but we want to get you guys to pitch in, to buy into it, so we incentivize it.
But also I want to bring up too, the NFL has not had a good look at themselves
Oh, no.
for quite some time.
Yeah.
It's been years. It's been multiple
Decades,
years.
man.
It's been some years
But
to where
My point with that is, why do they need to? Because they're the most profitable organization in America right
and
now.
also
They
each
don't.
team-
They don't have to, because they're in front of everyone. Like all fair and good with what the NBA is doing right now, but their numbers aren't a fourth of what the NFL makes right now. Because in terms of just viewership, it's doubled and tripled.
each team is almost $1 billion.
Yeah.
Even the Bengals, who had the worst season, still somehow makes $1 billion for this 1 year. So even if you add, that's also why I'm somewhat against it, because even if you add one game, just think on how much revenue that one game will get
Oh, right.
an extra team. Let alone let it be the Ravens, the Chiefs, who just won the Super Bowl, a former MVP.
Well,
Well, even come down the line, you're already talking about some of the worst of the worst, the Bengals, all right? Let's bring up another garbage team, the Browns, okay? And they're still generating revenue. So if you want to talk about on the revenue side of it, yeah, of course, NFL is a multi-billion-dollar company, and what they're doing is working for them on profitability. Does that mean they need to change it? Absolutely, because they need it.
But
Now, hold on a minute. I'm saying what my point is that yes, they need to change it to where it generates more positivity towards NFL, to where I'm more inclined to watch them, because they do things not just for the players but also for the community
also-
in general.
But it makes you more inclined, and it also what fans are going to do? Oh, it's a good sighting now. Here goes my money. Here goes my money.
But
it also brings more revenue for them as well.
Is I totally agree. I'd love to see them do some of this stuff, but at this point, all these owners could really care less about how the public looks. They're making a lot of money right now. I don't see any reason for them to kind of change what they're doing. Because I agree in terms of everything you guys are saying, but just in terms, I don't see that ever happening because it's working and it's the best now.
We're just saying on the potential things that could go in favor because it seemed like America loves the NBA and what they're doing.
And that's skewed, just unfortunately enough. That's America. I think worldwide it's more of a bigger game, but in terms of the NFL, just in terms of America viewership, the NBA doesn't touch it. And you kind of see that on Twitter. You kind of see the big things right now on Twitter is the NBA and how great it is. But if you look at the stats, it's nowhere near.
And if you go outside of the U.S., are you going to think you're going to watch NBA or NFL on some place in the U.K. or Latin America or wherever? You're not going to find it because you're basically going to be in a vacuum without NFL or NBA. So how do they bridge that gap? Again, looking at reaching out positively for the community by changing the way that they approach and adapt to and improvise on how they're able to deliver and convey it to certain community
But I think
aspects.
they're doing that right now. You see them go to England, and they're selling out Wembley Stadium. 90,000 people are going to those 4 games a year. And you also have that at Mexico. They play at the Azteca in Mexico City.
One thing I want to say on that, they got to fix that field. That field is so awful.
It's always been awful.
And you can't try to go to Mexico each and every time knowing that the field is messed up. The NFL, you gotta go and change it and fix it up, renovate it if you're going to go try to play in Mexico. Like, you're going to have to do something to it and not expect some change for it and expect Mexico to try to go and change it. You're the ones that's trying to play in the in the stadium.
And this goes back to things that's community impactful to where if you were to start actually hiring out to local contractors to renovate that provides jobs, it provides income, that provides, actually economy of that particular region during that championship match.
Yeah, but my whole thing is that Azteca, it's a soccer stadium, and it's always been a problem. Every time the USA men's soccer team goes there, it's a problem anyway. So I think there's been effort to try and fix that field, but just for whatever reason, they go to that stadium because they can get the most people in it, they can get the most revenue, and ultimately that's all they care about, like it or not. It's just kind of how it is.
True. It just seems like the NFL that's all they care about. That money, that dollar sign, that's all that matters to them. And I think that's why the players are somewhat opposing it as well, because they just like, y'all just want to get more money out of us. Also, that's why they're trying to bump it up to 50% as well. So like owners get 50%, but
look at these guys who are making $35 million a year in a contract, okay? If you go from the guys we just talked about on the lower end of the spectrum that are making 6-figure, like say the lowest range of a new recruit who's just been drafted is probably like what, 500,000 maybe if he's lucky. But then you go from the other extreme to 35 million. If you're like sitting on that kind of stack of cash and whatever, you're not really going to worry about whether or not it moves forward or not. So my point is that if you're at the top of the level, you're going to be fine. 35 million, what? That's a lot of money at the end of the day. But I mean, again, it comes back to who's going to win, who's going to lose. As far as us as a fan base, great. As far as the players, not so much. And the ones who aren't going to use will be the ones who's concerned with their bottom line, which is the corporation.
One more point before we move on is the scheduling part. For me, it's going to be somewhat weird because 16 to 17 games for the regular season is always been 8 and 8 home game, 8 home games, 8 away games. Now, if you try to do, it's going to be where 8 home games with 1 year, 9 road games, then you're going to flip it. And then also, for one of those games, one of those weeks, week 17, it's going to be slog games. The NFL is terrible at scheduling good games at times. It was multiple weeks this past season where you didn't want to watch any game because it was a big favorite. So the NFL they don't really do a great job on scheduling those games. So week 17, it might be the Patriots versus the Bengals. Who is going to want to watch that?
Not me.
It's going to be games like that where it's going to be a big favorite, and it's not. You might not think us viewers not going to look at it and be like, okay, we're going to watch this game. Some of those games is going to be like, It's throwaways. Just give me those games, and it's gonna just give me an extra win. Like, come on, guys. It's gonna have to be a lot more thought process with that deal, and it can work out for both sides. Do I think it's gonna work out? Really, no. But let's go ahead and move on, because this fight that happened this past Saturday, Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury got the victory after Wilder's court threw in the towel in the 7th round.
He was tired, bro. He was tired, man. He was tired.
Hey,
walking down from the locker room, he got tired. Apparently,
okay.
That's what the story is.
The story
you want to
is,
get the back?
Yeah, I'll give him the backstory. So Wilder came out on the report. That was earlier today, I believe. Either it was earlier today or yesterday, saying that he had this 45 pound suit, little
40 pound.
40 pound costume on, trying to show Black History Month. That's what he said the reason was for it. But it was all crystal crown and everything. He said he got tired of it because he only put it on one time before going out to the ring, so he never walked with it on to the ring, and it wore him out. And he was like, that's why in the 3rd round people was like, you don't look like yourself. He was like, that was part of a reason why. I think that's somewhat of a good excuse, just plain and simple to me.
And okay, I would like for you to actually defend that statement, sir.
I'm not defending. I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm saying it's a good excuse for him.
Oh, okay,
it's not a good excuse for the loss. It's a good excuse for him to try to put blame on it. It's not a good excuse for the loss, because you saw what Tyson Fury did. He came out with a robe on. He didn't have nothing on him. He had a crown. Now he had somebody like a moving little cart pushing it to the ring, but he never had on anything big like that. It was just glamorous.
Anger on is what he had, ready to win. But
I mean, you can't. If you want to go out in style, go out in style. We're not stopping you from going out in style. A lot of boxers do that all the time. We ain't saying stop. Now you trying to blame that and say that's the reason. That's a part of the reason why you lost, because you had noodle legs in the 3rd round when we ain't seen that before at all. Like, come on now.
I haven't. So we done with the backstory?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so my whole point on this is like, okay, first of all, it's great if the reason why you're going to utilize a suit like that is to representation of culture. That's great. However, you need to have a practice run with that. Okay, you can't just come out the locker room the second time you ever wore it and walk down the stage, walk from your locker room all the way to the stage, and then get there and go through the motions of having to take it off, and then get up in the ring and get ready to fight, and then act like everything's normal. Okay, now, if you want to say that it might have tired you out, that's cool. But you know what? That's one of those times when you actually have to say something, and you need to keep it on the inside, okay? Don't come out in the public and try to say that's the reason why I lost because of wearing that suit. You could have just kept that to yourself, man, because I'm going to tell you what. Had he gone against somebody like Fury, okay, with just nothing on but what he's supposed to be wearing, his uniform, then, okay, we're all on equal pairing. But I'm going to also tell you what, this could have been something that his coach could have said, because it's always something that the coaches want to say. Be like, yo, my shoes were too tight. I drank too much water, or I actually had to cut too much weight, so I lost, or my gloves were too tight. You're going to come up with something, but like I said, I don't think there's any way he should have said that publicly, because it's embarrassing, especially when you get whooped that hard.
Yeah, I'm not even going to entertain that statement from Deontay. I mean, it's just stupid. It's completely false as well. I think the one thing that made your legs tired, look at his legs. They're about as big as a stick. I don't need this kind of excuse this whole way, but I think one thing that definitely affected Deontay, he put on quite a bit of weight for this fight.
Mm-hmm.
He came in heavier than expected, which
is demanding on any athlete.
Yeah,
it was 20 to 25 pounds.
And he did that because Tyson Fury said himself he's going to come in bigger than he normally was. Came in at 273, I do believe, and on the night of the fight he was 275. So I think the one thing that maybe affected Deontay in an actual reality, not some false reality where this costume made you lose a match, I think the weight that Deontay put on, naturally it was just going to be difficult. But I called this fight early. I texted Gabe and Marcus. I said I like Tyson in this fight just because Tyson is the better boxer, and I think we saw that exactly.
So that's the thing, like, everybody that was picking Wilder, we wasn't going to say Wilder was going to win.
Outpoint him. Yeah.
It wasn't going to be an outpointing thing. It was going to be about a knockout, as we saw in the first fight where he knocked him down twice. This one, it was the stats and the numbers was so big of a gap. There was no way that Wilder was going to win points-wise. There, like, no possible way.
Well, it's also the fact of, like, look at how much he probably had to spend on that outfit, the costume, and the fact that the whole point of our conversation is being deviated from actually talking about a fight that could have been something to really look at instead of like an over or like a over or underbalanced match as it is, when we could have actually seen a performance between two professional athletes who I think the reason why someone that is at this stature to where they have gone from zero to hero to where they've gone from a nobody training in the background in a crowd where you never know their name to where they actually are able to come up and then say, okay, well, now I have a fight against so-and-so, like an actual challenger. You go from that recognition to where you have to work harder. And I think right at this point, this illustrates the fact that sometimes you just stop being aggressive on pursuing your goal.
Joe, what you think about the fight, like the fight itself?
Well, as far as like, again, I want to look at, if you want to look at the numbers wise, I think that you saw the intensity on the right side of where it should have been. And the reason why one person lost and one person won was because obviously one guy was there to prove a point, is that he is going to beat whoever stands in the ring with him. And that's what it comes down to. If you want to be a part of this whole food chain, you always got to be the bigger fish.
Yep.
Now you can be a shark, going against another shark, but it's just going to be like, I might be smaller or bigger than you, but if whoever's going to win wins. As far as like when it comes down to, technique, training, and just it's about heart too, man.
And I was so impressed with Tyson Fury because in Fury Wilder 1, Fury basically boxed a perfect fight for 11 rounds until that huge knockdown that I think ultimately just kind of forced the judges to say, we can't give Deontay Wilder a loss for that shot that ultimately probably should have been waved off anyway. So they give him the draw. So if I was Tyson Fury, I think I would have done the same sort of game plan, but he went with the offensive. He went right to Deontay Wilder and kind of forced him into a comfort zone that not a lot of guys put him under. And I think that's ultimately why Deontay, I don't think he expected that at all.
I think he noticed it in the later rounds of the first fight, saying that if I get aggressive, he doesn't like being on his back heel. Yep. And one thing before the fight, I will say before we have to close everything, because I know we want to keep going, but Wilder said he was going to try to go with a new style, trying to come into the fight. He didn't come with no new style. He's just a puncher. That's the thing. Yep. He's almost like a street fighter. He want to put everything into one punch, knock you out, and just go out in fashion. Tyson Fury isn't like that. He's tactical. He going to outpoint you. Wilder only threw 58 punches. Fury threw 160. The amount of punches that Wilder threw, Fury landed. Wilder only landed 18 punches.
Out of how many total?
Out of 58.
Yeah, see, that's ridiculous. That means you're not really.
How can you win a fight? And majority of his punches that was landed was jabs.
Right.
How can you win a fight like that? Just plain and simple, it's not possible.
And it's those big swinging punches that for a boxer like Fury, he sees them from a mile away, and he's not going to get caught. He did get caught in the 12th round, but those are the punches he's just not going to get caught with.
And also the last point is that if you want to actually like change your strategy, you don't announce that to anybody. You'd be like UFC, Georges St. Pierre. He always adapts and improvises and overcomes whatever challenges he faces. But he doesn't say, okay, well, I'm in here practicing this, because you basically want to be able to keep that mindset of a winner.
I just want to say, y'all might not like it, but there will be a Tyson Fury versus Wilder 3. I want to see that one. Hopefully he changes his style up like he said he was, and try to become more tactical. But that is all we have here on this afternoon, 3:52 here on February 25th. Thank you, Joe. We're going to have to bring you back on multiple times. I love that energy. But this is Just Talking Sports, episode 11, and we are out.